So, hi everybody and welcome back. This is the Unreal Engine 5 tutorial series for absolute beginners. We are creating a game. This is video 35, I think. And in this video, we continue with the animation. We already set up an animation, but we have a big problem. We can't walk. We just can't walk. So when I started the game, yes, it looks strange and we have to change this. And how we are going to change this? We are introducing a blend space. So what the hell is a blend space? A blend space is just the same thing what we did last time, adding animations, but instead of adding animations one by one, we are adding them to a blend space, and this blend space is then deciding for us how to use this animation. So we are not using them. This blend space say I use them under a certain condition. I have to check all time one condition. So let's go and watch our standard blend, our example. This is our default character example. Let's go here on the right side again to our animation, and here our main set, and it says here locomotion, which means we have jump here to this place. And this one we already created, right? We have an entry, we have an idle. This is there where what we created. Let me open up my one. I go to animation, and in animation we created this animation blueprint, and there we created our animation blueprint, and I opened this one up, and we are at this state. We have a very simple one which is working. We are idling perfect. Here I open up this state machine, and you see we have an entry, and we learned how to add an idle state here. There are different ways, perfect. But now we want that it went from this idle state here to a walk state, and I said a blend space will decide for us when to use the walk animation, when to use the run animation, and when to use again the idle animation. It should, so we want not to decide it all by ourselves and manually. It should automatically decide it, and that's why blend spaces are so good, because it takes away a lot of work, and we have just to create it one time and it will. So let's get into it. So how we are going to create animations, but before I create, let me show you one more thing. I said, let me open the default one up. I said this blend space is the default one, which you see here, will decide for us which animation it will use. But important is that we get this checker variable, and the checker variable means just is a variable which you are interested in, and this variable will change over depends on what you are doing, and then it will decide which variable it activates. The default character, for example, will check all time the speed variable in our character movement component. Let me open and show you what this is fast. I go back to the character. Oh, let's go here, it's faster. And I open the character up, very important. And here, and we have here on the right side, let me show you, this is our character movement component, character blueprint, just normal, what we already know. And here on the left side here, all characters blueprints have this character movement component, and this character movement component has here anywhere. Let me find it. Let's speed. Does it have it something like so? Not really, right? Anywhere max speed swim. We have here speed too. Anyway, max walk speed here, and so on. And this value we will need later, right? So we will click here on. We have to get this character movement component, and we have also to get this character. So this just as a note, and the question is, later I show you how we get it. We will use blueprints for animation blueprints, this event graph. But before that, we have to create this blend space, and it's very easy, very simple. Let's get into it. First of all, let's get to our folder animations. And in animations, we are creating a new folder. I already created one. It's called Blend Space. Then I moved my default character here as well, but this time we want to create our own ones, right? So what we do, like all time, you click add, or you just click here, right click, and you can go to animations. Very important information here. We have here different options. So what options we have? Here it says blend space for multiple, which means most time 2 directions. I will explain this in a moment, but we will use as a start this one direction, which means just one checker condition. We want only check one condition. That's enough for us for walking. And then we have 2 more options, and it is aim offset and aim offset 1D, which is very nice for shooting, FPS, aiming characters and something like that, which we are not going to do now because these are more, you can do it, check this on the documentation page, how to make this one. It's very nice if you make an FPS game or something like that, then you would check this one definitely. But we at the start make this blend space 1D. So let's click on it, and it asks again for which skeleton, and we already learned how to get our skeleton, and I select this one, and then I call this blend space, and I don't know the convention, but I say blend space BS underscore, and then I name it. And I call this walk run, because we want to, in this blend space should just walk and run. Okay, we have created it, we open it up, and this one is now the blend space almost like before, but it's a little bit different. We have to set it up. Right, before we had all, now we have to set up all. So very important. First, the left side, there is only one setting which we are really interested at the start, and this one is this axis setting. And the axis setting here means it says horizontal axis, and you can see here on the bottom, this is our horizontal axis, right? And if you would use now this other multiple blend space, then you would also have this one, and that's I skipped now because we don't need it for our walk. So we have this axe here, and first of all we give it as name so we know what we are checking. I want to check the speed, because the speed will determine if I am walking, I'm running, or I just staying in my place. All right, I write speed. This one, you can see now the speed name here, and we have here something like a start point with 0, 0 and an end point with 100. We can specify that, and that's a little bit tricky later when you make your own animations. You can test what is good, what is not good. In this case, I just take the default values from the default character, which is 0 start point, 500 end point, and then that's almost it for our setup. Of course, there are many options which you have to read in the documentations, but to understand the blend space, this is almost enough. That's good. And we continue. And what we need here is, of course, we have now a blend space. We need to add the animations which we want blending from one to another and back eventually. So let's get started how to do this. First of all, we say at the start point what animation I want at the start point, which is 0, 0. I say I want walk in place. What is, I use the default character set up again, so we have it to later. So I say walk in place. Okay, and I can drag and drop it here in, and you see it starts to walk in place because you see this cross green thing there. It's on this one because it's walking. If you want to move this green cross, you can press Control, and then you can move it later, but we have not set up any blend. That's why it's still doing nothing. All right, what we can do now is get another animation. That's why we make this blend space, not to use one animation. We want blend it over. Let's get another animation. Now I want go from walk in place just to normal walk, right? And then you have, the important is that you have these animations, of course. If you have not the right animations, you can't make this right blend. That's normal. So let's find this walk forward, for example. Interesting is it says forward, so it can happen that you have there a walk backwards, walk sidewards, and there are millions of animation which you can have here, but good that we make just the simple one to demonstrate it for fast. So I place it here, right? And you see there appears a white line, which means it will blend from this to this point. But the problem, like I said, perhaps at start you don't know at which speed you want change it. And this one you have later for other animation which you don't know, a little bit testing, and I show you how you can test this in a moment. When we find our last point, which is I want from walking, let me move it, control, I can move it now here, and you can already see the blending a little bit. I want now going here from this point to run, and there is a run forward. So because there could be also a run backwards or whatever. There are many different animations, and I drop it here. And now I press again, control, hold it, and then I can go here. And you see this one looks not so wrong, but it's also not perfect because I just dropped it here. And when we walk the default animations, let me go here fast back to the default one. Yeah, it's faster. I go here and here and here. So the default one has here 230, and I dropped it here a little bit because they already tested this out, that this one is a little bit better. And you can test it later by watching the animation if you have good eyes and a good feeling how locomotion should work. Then that is very good because you need that definitely. And another way version is you can press Control Alt, and then you see the weight shifting here. You see this little weights on top. This is also very nice to check how they shift from one animation to the another animation. But I think in the end you check just here how the animation looks. If it looks very good and the weight shift works as well, then it takes. So this set for that one. Let's continue with our animations. I go fast back, open this one up, and you see that was on 230. But I have here a problem. How I change now at this point? You can click the animation, and then the speed here on the left side pops up, and we can write 230, and now it jumps to this place. But there is another way. You just can click again and right click it, and then you have here a little bit more options. You can see here, you can set again the speed. You can even set the rate scale and other options, but let's keep this up. And you can also just click here to show samples, then it shows here also the names, for example, if you need that. And you can click here to show the animation names as well. For example, if you have a little bit better names than me, because this names here, this in front makes not really sense, but this one, just walk forward, for example, and in place, walk in place, more walk forward would be better in this case, I think. All right, let's continue. So we have already set up our animation blueprint. That was it. The blend space. But the last thing what we have to do is, like I said, now I'm manually manipulating this animation, right? With control holding and with my mouse and changing my speed. You can see the speed value in this pop-up is going from 0 to 500 when I move here around. And exactly this value, this change of value, we want make manual, and we may want not make manually, we want have automatically chosen. So this speed should choose it automatically. And what we are going to do now is we have to use this animation graph. That means we save that what we have so far, and we go back to our animations. We open again our animations, and we open our animation blueprint where we started. So here, back in our animation blueprint, we will use this animation blend space. Let's make this first before we get the speed checking, right? So how we are going to do this? Actually, when you watch now here on the asset browser on the right side, there is our newly created blend space. So which other word, I could theoretically use this one here, but you see, this would work. This is good. And then I can connect here just what we learned with one transition connection. And you see there is again this transition this asking. We have to set this probably up too. And then I need perhaps a back transition. So this one is not possible right now because I said we need to set up something. Let me go fast to the default one and let me go here. You can see they have it same, so all is fine if you want here. And then if I open this transition, and you see they have just here should move set up, and nothing, almost nothing. These transitions are very easy, and here the opposite should move not. They just make a not boolean, which means just the opposite, yes and no in short. So and here the blend space which is using, they have said could speed this. This one we will create here in a moment. And let me open up again my blend space. I go to my blend space folder, I open it up, not the blend space animation blueprint, sorry. Let's go back to my animation blueprint folder, open it up. And this one we will set in a moment, not right now, because we have not these variables. We have not, when I double click it, we have not this variable set up now. It makes no sense. First, let's set them right and then go back. So let's open now our blend space, which we created. And we see, yes, here is the blend space. And here is the speed parameter. And you see the speed parameter say, I need an input. Now give me this input. The problem is, like I said, we have to get this input not manually with our hand. That makes no sense. It should get automatically the input from the character movement component. And that's what we are going to set up. To do so, we make all time our life easier. We create first a variable to connect this, and then we will use this variable as our checker. And how we make this, there are different ways. You can go here to the variable section, click a plus, but there is another way, easier perhaps. You can go here to this pin, because you know I want to make here a variable. Click here, right click, and then you say here promote to variable, for example. And interesting, you can make here a new binding. I think this is new in UE5. I didn't know this one. There is another binding pin, but what I'm showing you is just a basic rotation. But this one, this new binding pin, which you see here, is probably new in UE5, and I never used it right now. Probably you can just bind it directly here anyhow to the property which you want. You can search this here in the web for the new way, but let's do the old way. The old way is just here, creating here a variable, and now you can see I created this variable float here. It created this automatically for me. Speed, perfect. So this one we have set up. I go here back here from base walk to locomotion. So I have this set up, but the problem is, okay, I have now this variable speed, but how I get this? And I said before, we have now to go to the event graph, and you see this is the event graph. You see here probably one more node which we are not using right now, and we have to set this up. So this setting up I will do in the next video, because that takes a little bit time again to explain this and this. And with that said, see you in the next. Bye so far.